On the chilly evening of April 18, 2021, the sun had long slipped below the horizon when 33-year-old Mitch Kuhn drove his car along the Hume Highway in Bardia, Australia. It was around 7:40 p.m. The road stretched endlessly in front of him like a ribbon of cold asphalt under the dim glow of his headlights. Mitch was tired after a long day at a racing event and was eager to reach his home in Gold Coast City. His mother was sitting quietly in the passenger seat as the car hummed steadily down the dark highway, towing behind it a large toy hauler that swayed gently with the wind. The road was quiet, empty, the kind of lonely stretch where even a distant pair of headlights can make you feel a little less alone. Mitch had no idea that in just a few heartbeats, that sense of routine would shatter into a memory he would never forget. Through the windshield, at a distance that shrank far too quickly, Mitch caught sight of something in the middle of the road. His breath caught in his chest as the headlights illuminated a small, human-shaped figure. It looked like a child standing there alone, frozen in place, as if unsure whether to cross or turn back. The figure wore a blue parka, the hood pulled up so Mitch couldn't make out a face. The sight made his stomach clench. His mind scrambled to understand how a child could be standing in the center of a highway at night, miles from the nearest homes. There was no time to wonder. He was driving nearly 60 miles per hour, 96 kilometers an hour, and the weight of the toy hauler made it impossible to slam the brakes without risking a disastrous crash. His instincts screamed at him to swerve, but one wrong move could have flipped his car. Heart pounding in his ears, Mitch gripped the wheel and held his course, praying he wouldn't hit the figure. The car rushed past, missing the strange childlike figure by mere inches. Mitch's hands were slick on the steering wheel, his pulse pounding in his temples. His mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, both of them reeling from the narrow escape. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then, as the reality set in that there had been a child, alone on the highway at night, his mother grabbed her phone and called the police. Her voice trembled as she reported what they had seen, afraid for the child's safety out there in the dark. The officer on the line assured her that patrols were being dispatched immediately. But the image of that small, still figure standing in the middle of the road wouldn't leave Mitch's mind. It clung to him like a shadow. At 8:29 p.m., unable to rest, he called the police again, this time offering to send them the dashcam footage he had captured. To his shock, the officer told him that the child had been found and returned home safely. Mitch felt a flood of relief wash over him. That night he shared his experience on Facebook, writing that he had felt absolutely sick when it happened, but much better knowing the child was safe. Yet, the next day the story twisted into something far darker. As Mitch's dashcam footage spread online, and more people began asking questions, the New South Wales Police released an official statement saying that they had never found any child on the highway that night. They said that multiple patrol cars searched the area until 3:45 a.m., but found no trace of anyone. This completely contradicted what Mitch had been told over the phone. The revelation shook him. If the police hadn't found the child, then who or what had he narrowly avoided hitting on that lonely stretch of highway? Was it a tragic miscommunication, or something that couldn't be explained? To this day, no one knows. And the memory of that blue parka in the road lingers like a question that may never have an answer. 3 weeks later, on May 8, 2021, half a world away, another night brought another inexplicable encounter. TikToker Molly Paraus, known online as Pist Pasta, was driving home from a late night out with her friends in Belmont, Michigan. It was about 2:30 in the morning. The road empty except for their car. The Rogue River ran silently alongside Packer Drive, its dark water glinting faintly under the sliver of moonlight. The group was laughing, still riding the buzz of the night's fun, when one of them suddenly gasped and pointed at the road ahead. In the dim beam of their headlights, a shadowy figure was crawling up from the roadside onto the asphalt. At first, they thought their eyes were playing tricks on them, but as they slowed down, it became clear there was a woman, soaked to the bone, in the middle of the road. She was sitting upright, rocking slightly, her wet hair plastered to her face. She raised one trembling arm as if to wave at the car, then lowered it and banged her head softly against the pavement as though lost in some terrible trance. Unease rippled through the car. The night air outside was bitterly cold, barely 48 degrees Fahrenheit, about 9 degrees Celsius. Whoever she was, she shouldn't have been out there like that. For a moment, The friends argued about what to do. Was she in need of urgent help? Or was this some kind of trap? The decision was made to circle back. When they returned, the woman was still there, but now she had collapsed onto the ground completely, unmoving except for a faint shiver. Fear and pity mixed in their hearts. They didn't dare get out of the car, but called 911, explaining everything as they waited, their eyes never leaving the figure in the road. When the police and first responders arrived, they carefully approached the woman and brought her to safety, taking her to a nearby hospital. Later, Molly returned to the spot and found the road still wet from the water, dripping off the woman's clothes. There were marks in the soil by the riverbank, as if someone had clawed their way out of the river. The thought made Molly shiver. Investigators later pieced together that the woman had likely fallen into the river on the other side, swam across in the cold night, and somehow made it to the road, exhausted and disoriented. Her name was May, a kurang 28-year-old student from Kalamazoo, more than 60 miles away. She had gone missing 2 days earlier and had told friends before disappearing that she felt like she was being stalked. Whether that stalker was real or not remains uncertain, but it seemed clear that the stress had driven her into a dissociative fugue starter, condition in which a person loses touch with their own identity and may travel far from home without any memory of how they got there. May herself later admitted that she couldn't recall driving to Belmont at all. The thought that she had somehow survived the river and the freezing night made the encounter even more haunting. A few years earlier, in 2016, a family in Sheffield, England, had their own chilling encounter during what should have been an ordinary night out. They had spent the evening at the Drawbridge pub and were driving home after midnight. The streets were nearly empty, the city quiet as they turned onto Grange Mill Lane. Out of nowhere, a figure in a clown costume stepped out from the shadows and blocked the road. His face was hidden behind paint and a mask, his hands waving in a strangely cheerful yet menacing greeting. As the car slowed, the clown suddenly broke into a run straight at them. The driver's instincts screamed danger. Only days before, a man named Simon Chinney had been attacked by a knife-wielding clown, suffering deep cuts to his hand that left it permanently damaged. That incident had sparked a wave of terrifying clown sightings across the country. With that memory fresh in his mind, the driver threw the car into reverse, but the clown gave chase, sprinting after them in the dead of night. With his heart hammering, the driver floored the accelerator and sped off, barely missing the clown as he leaped aside at the last moment. The family didn't slow down until the road behind them was empty once more, their breaths ragged, hands shaking. It could have been a cruel prank, but in that moment, it had felt like a life-and-death chase. Roads often seem safe, so ordinary, until something shatters that illusion. In Texas, in June 2018, a police officer experienced that reality firsthand. Driving home after his shift, he noticed the car in front of him swerve suddenly into the next lane. Expecting to see an animal on the road, he instead saw the still form of a young woman lying sprawled across the asphalt. For a heart-stopping moment, he thought he was looking at a body left behind after some terrible crime. But when he cautiously approached, the woman stirred and slowly sat up. She was dazed, confused, smelling strongly of alcohol. Her car had crashed into a ditch minutes earlier, and in her disoriented state, she had wandered onto the highway and lain down as if unaware of the danger. By sheer luck, the car ahead had swerved in time. The incident was a harsh reminder of how fragile life can be in a moment of poor judgment. Some road encounters are darker still. On the night of February 26, 1946 in Texarkana, Texas, 25-year-old Jimmy Hollis and his girlfriend Mary Jean were parked on a quiet road after a movie when a man wearing a white sack over his head stepped out of the woods, with only 2 small holes cut for eyes. His face was hidden, his voice cold as he told Jimmy to get out of the car. At first, Jimmy thought it was a prank. But when the man pulled out a gun and said, "I don't want to kill you, fella. Just do what I say," the reality became horrifyingly clear. Moments later, the masked man struck Jimmy in the head, knocking him unconscious. Mary tried to flee, but was caught and attacked before headlights from an approaching car scared the assailant away. The two survived, but Jimmy's skull was fractured, and their testimony, confused and conflicting on some details, did little to help the investigation. Weeks later, other couples weren't so lucky, falling victim to what came to be known as the Phantom of Texarkana. To this day, the case remains unsolved. Even in modern times, strange and frightening road encounters persist. In January 2024, a truck driver traveling late at night on a remote highway in Western Australia saw two people dragging something across the road. He swerved violently to avoid them, his massive vehicle shaking as he narrowly missed them. By the time he stopped and looked back, the figures had vanished into the night. What they were dragging, whether it was an injured person, an animal, or something else entirely, remains a mystery that continues to unsettle those who hear the story. On another night, in September 2018 in New York, an Uber driver's routine ride turned into a nightmare. A speeding car cut him off, then stopped abruptly in the middle of the road, blocking his way. The other driver leapt out, shouting angrily, pounding on the Uber's windows, and demanding he get out. Terrified for himself and his passengers, the Uber driver reversed and tried to escape, only to find the furious man chasing them through the streets. Desperate, the driver spotted a police car at an intersection and managed to flag it down, leading to the attacker's arrest. The man, it turned out, was intoxicated, but his unpredictable rage could easily have ended in tragedy. These stories show that the roads we travel every day can suddenly become stages for the inexplicable, the terrifying, and the tragic. A stretch of highway or a quiet back road can transform in an instant into a place of danger, leaving behind memories that never fade and questions that will never be fully answered.